Hey guys, welcome to My Mint Life. Anna here, and today we are going to be talking about periods. Not the funnest or most glamorous subject in the world, but definitely something that every person on the planet who is biologically female experiences, and it stinks. It's awful for most of us. Some of us are lucky enough to have very quick periods without too much PMS or without being necessarily heavy or all of the other kind of crappy things that go along with having your period. But for most of us, we would just rather get it over with as quickly as possible and move on with our lives. So how can we go about our day having our period, but without being completely and totally miserable, making things a little bit easier? That's what we're going to discuss today. So let's get started. My first hack is to deal with cramps. Not everybody gets cramps when they're on their period, but most of us do, at least to some extent. Some of us have really, really horrendous cramps. Some of us have, they're uncomfortable, but, they're not life-altering. And then a few lucky ones of us don't experience them at all. But for most of us, cramping is a part of having your period. It's literally the contraction of your uterus to expel the lining, the old lining, to make place for the new uterine lining. So one of the things that I like to do is to use hot pads. Now, you can use a heating pad, but those aren't really, they're not convenient to move from place to place. If you're sitting in your car or even at work, you might not be able to have a heating pad with you. So I like to bring along something mobile. Now this I made myself. I just used some excess fabric, sewed it in a rectangle, and I filled it with rice. You could even do this with like an old sock and just sew up the top. And then I microwave it for about 1.5 minutes, and I use this when I'm on my period just to help relieve cramps. I even use this for like my knees and my ankles tend to ache when I'm on my period, and this helps a lot. So definitely consider making yourself one of these. My next tip is to make yourself a little period pack. This is relatively small and carries a lot of supplies. If I'm in a restaurant or something, I don't want to have to lug an enormous purse into the bathroom with me. It's inconvenient, it's not very discreet. I started carrying a smaller pouch filled with feminine supplies in my purse just to make it a little bit more convenient, a little bit more discreet. This is actually just a little Ipsy bag that I got in a subscription box a while back. So I just started, I keep pads, I keep tampons, I even keep a little bit of pain reliever in here so that when I'm on the go, I have everything that I need if I'm on my period. Another thing that I like to do when I'm on my period to alleviate any type of cramping or joint pain is to stick my clothes in the dryer. It sounds kind of strange, but it does help to relieve, even temporarily, some of the discomfort from cramping and joint pain. And it just feels better to put on warm clothes, at least to me. So it's definitely something you might want to consider trying if you experience those symptoms as well. To go along with my previous clothing tip, another tip that I have for you is to wear things that make you feel comfortable on your period. Now this could be different things for different people. I often hear people talk about wearing sweatpants and loose clothing when they're on their period as kind of a hack. And if that's what makes you feel better when you're on your period, more power to you. Definitely go ahead and do that. But not all of us feel that way. I personally like to wear things that are a little bit more fitted when I'm on my period. Not to be too blunt, but I don't want things moving around when I'm on my period. And wearing pants that are just a little bit more fitted, that keep things in place, make me feel more comfortable, make me feel more secure so that I don't have to worry as much about leaking. I find that if I'm wearing looser clothing, I'm more likely to leak. Which I definitely don't want. So definitely go with what makes you feel the most comfortable when you're on your period, and don't worry about what anybody else thinks. My next tip has to do with nutrition. Now, just one quick kind of caveat emptor is that I am not a healthcare practitioner. Definitely speak to your healthcare practitioner when it comes to any type of nutrition, supplements, medication, anything like that. Always take any YouTubers, even my advice with a grain of salt, and do what works best for you, your body, your medication routine, things like that. Always use common sense when it comes to stuff like that. But I can share with you some of the things that work for me that help me when I'm on my period. I have a very heavy period. I have a very long cycle. My periods, before I had children, went from 7 days when I first started my period, and over the years narrowed down to 5. After I had children, they're now at 10, which is awful, really. I'm hoping that one day, gradually again, it'll shorten and shorten and shorten as I head into my 40s, on into menopause. Who would have thought I'd be looking forward to that, right? But I have a long cycle and I have a heavy cycle. And because of that, I can feel tired and run down. Fatigue is a really big problem for me. One of the things that I like to do is to ensure that I'm taking in enough iron. And I encourage anybody who is on their period to intake iron, at the very least, iron-rich foods. Things like if you eat meat, beef, spinach, lentils, legumes, even dried fruits like apricots, dried plums, dried peaches. These are all really good sources of iron. I try to consume foods along those lines while I'm on my period, just so I don't feel so tired. And if I can't get it from dietary sources, I personally take a dietary supplement of iron once a day. I take it in the morning. It is encouraged that you take your iron on an empty stomach. Maybe you can take it with a little bit of orange juice if it can upset tummies. So if that's something that happens to you, healthcare practitioners, or at least mine, encourage me to take it with a little bit of orange juice. But definitely take it without food in your stomach. It just helps you absorb it better. So definitely consider your nutrition as a factor when it comes to being on your period. Really anything to help you feel better. And this is something that definitely affects my energy levels, is to take in enough iron, because I'm losing a lot. You're losing a lot. You're losing not only tissue, but you're also losing, obviously, blood. So you want to replace some of that. You want your body to replace what you're losing so you don't feel quite as bad. Another thing you might want to consider looking into is period subscription boxes. They come in a wide variety of items included, a wide variety of prices, but they're not, I looked into them, they're not insanely expensive. On average, they range between about $10 and $40. And to give you an example of some of the things that are included in the boxes, for instance, there's a company called Lola. Their boxes are about $10, and they focus on offering you organic cotton feminine products. Things that are a little bit more natural, don't have any bleaches, harsh ingredients in their products. The cool thing about that company is that they even have a subscription box that focuses on girls who are having their period for the very first time, which can be a little bit traumatic. It definitely takes getting used to the first time you have your period. It's a whole new world, and it can be really intimidating. So maybe look into something like that if you have a daughter or a niece or something who is experiencing her first period. Another company that seemed really interesting to me was the PMS package. This subscription box not only features feminine hygiene products, but really coolly features like snacks, treats, chocolate, chips, things like that, to kind of help with those PMS cravings that we all tend to have. So I thought that was really neat, and that one is about $30. My last tip for your period is to keep track of your period. There are some women who chart every day their feminine health in some detail, and obviously that's going to include your period. But I encourage you, even if it's just writing down the day that you start and going from there to your next expected start date. I do this every month. I mark it in my planner every month when I start my period, and from there, on average, my periods come, I'm very fortunate that my periods come pretty regularly between 27 and 29 days, but usually 28, which is about the average. So I mark the day I start on my calendar, and then I count 28 days in the future, and I mark the next time I'm expected to start. This helps me in so many ways in terms of planning. It lets me know, oh, will I be out of town when I'm on my period? If so, what days am I going to be on? Am I going to be on like the tail end where I don't really have to worry so much about packing a whole lot of products? Or am I going to be like, you know, in the trenches, totally full on period where I want to bring as much stuff with me as possible? Do I want to maybe make plans to go swimming, or any number of things that can interfere, that your period can interfere with? So I definitely encourage everybody to at least track their start date and when they expect to start again. I hope this video was helpful to you in some way, gave you some ideas to make your period a little bit less painful, and I will see you guys in the next one. Have a great day. If you are on your period, hang in there. It will be over soon. And I will see you guys next time. Bye for now.